Medicines go through a series of strict checks to make sure that they have sufficient safety, quality and efficacy data before receiving a license for use in humans. It can take up to 10 years for a medicine to be developed from a chemical compound to a treatment that can be used in humans. Lucentis, known by the generic name ranibizumab, is a licensed treatment that was specifically developed and approved for use in wet age-related macular degeneration, or wet AMD. Clinical trials began in February 2000, but weren't completed until 2006. It took 5 years to test and a further 2 before becoming available in the UK. It's a long journey. But why is it necessary? Why can't a useful medicine go directly to market for the benefit of patients?
With an approved medicine, the physician knows that that medicine has gone through a very robust regulatory process. With an unapproved medicine, they do not know that. In fact, it probably hasn't been through such a process.
After the preclinical trials have been completed, pharmaceutical companies then will test the product in human beings. And there are 3 phases of clinical trials testing. Phase 1 is a study in human volunteers, up to about 100, usually young men, and it is trying to establish safety of the product in healthy volunteers. Having established that, a company then moves to phase 2, which is a clinical trial, several clinical trials in patients that suffer from the disease. And it could be up to 300 or 400 patients in total. And in phase 2, the company is trying to establish clearly efficacy for the first time in the disease, as well as safety in those diseased patients.
My name's Rachel Hammond. I'm 17 years old and I was diagnosed when I was 7. I have a condition called a primary immunodeficiency, and what that means is that my body doesn't produce enough antibodies, which are the things that fight off infections, so I get ill really easily. I've now been having treatment for 10 years for this condition because I was diagnosed when I was 7.
I'm Diane Hammond. I'm Rachel's mother, and I looked after her until she started looking after herself.
My infusions take half an hour and I infuse once a week. While I'm infusing, I tend to lie down and watch television. It's just become part of my weekly routine. You know, it's something like brushing my teeth, brushing my hair, you know, something like that. I store my drugs in a box that the company sends to me. And so in there they send you the needles, the cream, the sterilisers, all the stuff that you need to do your treatment, so that's really good. And you just look in the box and it's all there, you know, you just take out what you need. Well, I keep my sub-gam in a fridge. It's quite a small fridge and it's just big enough for the amount of bottles that I need to store in it. And yeah, that just keeps it cool, because if it gets too warm then that's not so good.
The ability of your patients to maintain an effective technique with their inhaler depends on their age, dexterity, coordination and inspiratory flow. Therefore, it's important to match the patient with the appropriate device. Compliant patients who aren't using their inhaler correctly may not receive their full dose into their lungs. So, how can we make sure your patients get the most out of their inhaled medicine? A pressurized metered dose inhaler, puffer or MDI, is a pressurized inhaler that creates an aerosol to inhale. The pressurized metered dose inhaler requires good coordination of inhaler activation and inspiration to ensure optimum deposition of the bronchial tree. Poor coordination will mean most of the drug will remain in the upper airways and throat, causing local side effects such as candida, oral thrush, and/or dysphonia, hoarse voice. Misuse of PMDIs has been shown to correlate with poorer asthmatic control in asthmatic patients treated with an ICS. In these patients, the dopamine transmission that allows finely balanced motor control breaks down. In the healthy brain, dopamine is released almost continuously from dopaminergic neurons into the synaptic space. This normal physiological activity ensures an almost continuous supply of dopamine to the postsynaptic membrane. Dopamine receptors on the postsynaptic membrane are stimulated in a relatively constant manner, leading to effective, controlled motor function. In Parkinson's disease, disruption to healthy, continuous dopaminergic transmission results in motor symptoms due to the progressive degeneration of dopaminergic neurons and the reduced release of dopamine compared with that of the healthy brain. These motor symptoms include tremor, bradykinesia, and rigidity, often limiting a patient's ability to carry out everyday tasks such as writing.
Toutes les mères du monde désirent que leur bébé grandisse sainement et pleinement. Cela signifie l'adoption de la meilleure nutrition possible dès le plus jeune âge. Mais que se passe-t-il lorsque l'allaitement se révèle impossible? Demandons l'avis de nos experts en nutrition infantile.
Breast milk is the optimal source of nutrition for healthy growth and development. But there are many circumstances when, sadly, it is just not possible for a mother to breastfeed. That's when it's essential that infant formulas like Ronalac and Ronagro contain key ingredients that are found in mother's own milk. For example, the ratio of whey to casein, the proportions of prebiotics, probiotics, and long-chain fatty acids. It's a complex mix that is vital to healthy development, and formulas that best approximate the benefits of breast milk would seem to be preferable.
Roneska sait combien il est important d'apporter une alimentation adaptée aux jeunes enfants. C'est pourquoi notre département de recherche et de développement a mis au point une gamme de laits dont la composition est aussi proche que possible de celle du lait maternel. Ronalac Prémature propose une nutrition particulière destinée aux prématurés et aux nourrissons avec un faible poids de naissance qui leur permet de reprendre une croissance normale. Le lait premier âge, Ronalac 1, destiné aux bébés jusqu'à 6 mois, contient des protéines de haute qualité pour une croissance optimale. Le lait de suite, Ronalac 2, est formulé pour les bébés de 6 à 12 mois.